Welcome to LBTV. We have a very special guest, Doug Melvin. I know this is we're doing this before the Packer-Bear game, but that's later on tonight. We got to get to some good stuff now. Back to baseball. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. Saw you at a Cynics, you and your wife, and we mentioned the show, and Josh tracked you down. I didn't want you to think he was TMZ or nothing, but he tracked you down, and you kept your promise. And that's something people love about you. So we're going to get into it right away and talk about the Ryan Braun thing and what's your, because I don't want to wait to spring training to be a fiasco.
Right.
But how do you think it'll work when he comes back to the locker room? Will you just get back to baseball and put that behind you?
Yeah, I think Ryan, it's going to be a little bit tough at first. You know, I think he understood he made a bad decision somewhere along the line, and he served his suspension. He served his penalty. I think that's got to be put behind him. And I think when he walks into the locker room, I think he's going to have to do the things with his teammates. You spend a lot of time with your teammates to get back their trust. And as you know, you've been in a locker room, and we always use the word trust. And when you start trusting each other and what you're doing and that, then it's better atmosphere, environment to be around. So Ryan will come back and be a part of the ball club. It may not be easy. He's going to have some bumps in the road, especially going on the road trip. There's going to be some fans that are out there. And there'll be some home fans it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're hoping he gets back out there and performs for us because he's a good player and he's a good person who just made a bad decision.
Yeah, because we want to try to stick to that 3 million attendance mark for the year, and I think that'll be fine. Sticking with Braun for a minute, how do we get Khris Davis into the lineup? Now, you think I should email or text Braun, tell him to move to right? I just should let Ronnie can do that.
Yeah, well, we're going to, we have talked about it, and part of it, if we move Ryan to right field, is because right fielders do have, they're tougher to find. You know, left fielders, usually the left fielder maybe he's not quite as good a defender or whatever, and you can go out there and sometimes they're just bad, like Johnny Gomes with the Red Sox. You wouldn't be able to play right field, but could play left field. So if you had an injury, it's easier to find a left fielder than a bona fide right fielder. But Khris Davis has, I like Khris Davis a lot. If he stays healthy, I have a lot of confidence that this guy can hit, 25 home runs, 85 RBI in our ballpark. This ballpark, I think, is built for Khris Davis.
Sure.
And he's a good hitter, has been a good hitter through the minor league system. He just has to stay off that disabled list. He's had a few injuries here and there. So it is in our conversation, off-season discussions about going to Ryan and talk to him. Ron has mentioned it briefly to him and that. And it also means that Aoki will have to do something too, because we have Aoki and a Khris Davis and a Gomez and a Braun. We like our outfield, and we have to get back some production that we didn't get this past year.
I know a lot of people saw some of the rookies and young players with the Cardinals who lost in the World Series to Boston. But, your rookie, Doug, have been doing a lot better than most people realize. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, no, the Cardinals, there's no doubt some of their rookie players, Mike Wacha, stepped up and performed, and that Tyler Thornburg stepped up and performed for us, and he had 7 quality starts. And we looked at the numbers. He's 62 innings, and Wacha was 64 innings, and they were very, very similar. So Thornburg sort of goes under the radar, but he stepped up this past year. Scooter Gennett stepped in when Ricky got hurt and was one of the better players that hit over 300 the last couple months of the season. And not just one of the younger players, but he hit with some of the bigger players, the regular players, and the left-handed bat plays the game a little bit like a Jimmy Gantner. Reminds me of a Jimmy Gantner type of guy who played 17 years here in Milwaukee. And then, obviously Khris Davis, being a rookie, stepped in and he performed very well too. So we liked our younger players and what they did. Jimmy Nelson had 10 innings at the end of the year. So we do have some good young players coming along, and they have to be part of our future. We have to build with our minor league system and younger players.
Sure. So what are we going to do with the log jam at second base?
Yeah.
Because you talk about Scooter and Ricky Weeks. A lot of guys can play multiple positions, but when you're a second baseman, that's the only thing that helps the club That you just let that kind of stuff work itself out?
Yeah, that's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah.
I think you've recognized they're both one-positional guys.
Yeah.
There's been people said, hey, well, what about Ricky in the outfield? We don't need an outfielder. What about
Right.
Ricky at another position? But Ricky's a second baseman. That's where he's played, and he performed very well for us. And Ricky was hitting at the top of the order in the lineup. He sort of brought a presence to our club. I used to like to watch Ricky lead off a game, and he was sort of that blue-collar, lunch pail construction worker going up to bat to start our games off. And that's his attitude. He's a quiet, physical individual, and he's a leader. He struggled. He has his times where, people get bothered by a lot of the strikeouts or whatever. But he's got some tough character and still could be a part of this club. And we'll just have to let itself work its way through. And in this game today, there's more injuries than ever. Whether it's the Packers or whether it's the Brewers, there's more injuries. I don't know why there's more injuries than ever. So having depth is important.
Yeah, and real quick, speaking of young Gomez and Segura, making the All-Star team is something I was very proud of as a Brewer fan. But you had to be excited because now explain to people, Segura wasn't part of the deal or something? They were at the last minute. Was he a part of it and had to be something?
No, he was one of the main guys in the deal.
He was one of the main guys?
Yeah, we were talking with one other club, and we narrowed it. There was 4 clubs interested in Greinke.
Right.
And I don't go out there and get a lot of clubs. All you need is 2 at the end.
That's all you need. Right.
And we had 2 clubs, and Texas was the other club with the Angels. And, and they had some talent, and we went back and forth. But we needed a shortstop. We hadn't had a shortstop since we traded J.J. Hardy, and Segura was there. There were some people thought maybe he's going to be a second baseman and whatever, and he stepped in there and played a great shortstop for us. But and then we got Ariel Pena and Johnny Hellwig part of the deal too. But Segura playing the way that he did this year, I'm not sure that we even expected him to play at that level. But having Segura and Gomez out there, 2 guys that are athletic. That I know you could see them in football uniforms. The 2 of them too, the way that they play.
Absolutely.
And in baseball, sometimes you don't get those athletic players and that, but they're fun to see. We lead the league in stolen bases, and that's part of the game. You got to have good athletes, but they're at athletic positions too, shortstop and center field. There's clubs going to go through this free agency here. Going to be looking for a couple center fielders are talking about big dollars. A couple shortstops teams are trying to talk to.
I'm glad you signed Gomez.
We signed him at the right time, and that otherwise he would have been a free agent this year, and we probably wouldn't have been able to keep him. But the credit to Carlos is he wanted to be here too. He stepped up and said he likes it here, and the part that I really is good, he stepped up and said, "You guys brought me here. You believed in me, and we were able to work a deal." So.
I love that kind of commitment. And getting a Gold Glove, anytime I see the word Brewers, you get excited. But for a Gold Glove, something that hadn't happened in 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be exceptional.
Yeah, it is. And, because defense is a big part of the game, and we saw him jumping over the fence, and he takes pride in it. If you're going to be a good defensive player, you have to take pride in what you do. And Carlos takes pride in it. Sometimes our games are so offensive anymore that people forget about defense is still a big part of winning teams and a winning culture and that. And pitching is part of defense, and catching the ball and making the plays is part of defense. And that. So Carlos takes pride in his defense. And, in his contract, we gave him a larger bonus for his Gold Glove than normal, and that was because we felt that he takes pride in what he does. So we said if he wins a Gold Glove, I'm fine with paying him that money. And that, and he ended up winning. He'll have enough money. You can buy some LeRoy Butler burgers.
There you go.
With what he's making.
That's awesome. Mario Antonasso, he's a very hands-on owner. I mean, you guys have a great relationship, and I love the way he lets you run the team. And he wrote a letter to some of the fans saying there may be some changes internally the way they evaluate talent. I mean, without getting too specific, is it something that, you guys change or may do something different? Or you haven't even got to that point yet?
I think it's what that's about is the analytics that's a part of the game today. And we do have people that analyze the statistical data and statistical information and that they still have to come down to the personnel, players. The numbers basically are a result of what the player does. But the numbers don't tell you if a guy's got first step quickness. Does he have good soft hands? Is he improving in an area? Players improve, and that's what development is. You can see players, whether it's any sport. Michael Redd wasn't a good basketball player his first year in the NBA. It took him a couple years, and he works on his shot and does things, and players get better as through time. So the combination of the scouting and the player development, and then adding the analytics and statistical information to that to try to make some decisions is what Mark's talking about.
Now, November 4th, obviously, is the day the Packers and Bears, the oldest rivalry. But there's a deadline for qualifying offers today.
Right.
I think the Yankees may fall under that with Cano. They may make it a 1-year, $14 million offer. Corey Hart, I don't know if he would fit into that or not. But what are you going to do at first base moving forward?
Yeah, we won't be offering Corey the offer. He would have been an interesting case if he'd had a big year this year. Then we probably would have been faced with that decision. We're still not sure at first base. You know, this past year we had the injury to Corey, to Matt Gamble, Taylor Green. We had anybody playing first base that walked in the clubhouse, and none of them were really first basemen. Corey Hart was an outfielder, and we had Alex Gonzalez was a shortstop, and Uni went over there, Betancourt, and played, and he was an infielder. It was a mishmash this year, and it didn't work. I look back and said maybe we should have just went out and got a first baseman after the injuries. We kept holding hope that Corey would get better, and it didn't happen. But you know, Juan Francisco came in. He had some moments. Then he had his high strikeout total. He's doing very well in winter ball. So we're still in that process. That's one of our big off-season objectives and goals, is to go through and filter through all the available first basemen and see if there's someone there. We do like Hunter Morris, who's in AAA. Had a big year in AA the year before and was our minor league player of the year. This last year he adjusted to AAA. Still had 24 homers, 75 RBIs. So we still have to think about him too. But that's probably our number one goal, is to try to fill that position, because we really went down in production at that position this past year.
Yeah, I know the season didn't start or end the way you wanted it to, but I think up and coming, it still goes back to pitching. Bringing Loesch in brings a little attitude to your pitching staff. Yogo is still, Giovanni is still the guy that you can always count on. How do you see the pitchers, you know, because I think a lot of people put emphasis on starters, but you got to also have a good bullpen as well.
Yeah, our bullpen in 2012 was the worst in baseball. Last year we were third or fourth, so we made some big strides with that. And then our starting pitching was better this past year. I think after the last 81 games, we were fourth. Not sure whether it was the major leagues or the National League. We were fourth in pitching, so we improved. Even if you looked at the Cardinals, 3 of the last 4 months, our pitching was better than the Cardinals 3 of the last 4 months of the season. But we have to do that over 6 months. Winning month by month doesn't necessarily win championships. You got to do it over the long haul. But those are signs that do show the pitching, there is the talent there. Willie Peralta stepped up, and he pitched some real good games. He had didn't pitch as well early on coming out of spring training, struggled a little bit. Again, goes back to what I talk about, development, working on a pitch, on his third pitch, his changeup, throwing strikes. And then he stepped out there. What you want to have is, when you send a starting pitcher there and you go to the park that night, you want to be able to say, we have a chance to win tonight. And with Loesch and Gallardo and Willie Peralta and Marco Estrada, I feel pretty good about giving us a chance to win each night. And that it's troublesome when you go there and say, gosh, we don't have a chance tonight. It's you know, we're going to have to score 7 or 8 runs, and you can't count on that. But we scored 150 less runs this past year, but our pitching improved dramatically. Still not to where we want it to be. And then we have a couple young guys, Jimmy Nelson and Thornburg stepped in, and John Helwig struggled up here, but he was the Pacific Coast League Pitcher of the Year. So we do have some young arms that are in the wings and waiting, and it requires a lot of patience for pitching in the game, and even for young talent requires patience, and we don't live in a patient world, you know. Everything's Instagram and texting, and everything's quick, so. But we like the talent. It's just a matter of us nurturing it, developing it, and that we got a good blend of veterans and a few younger players that we feel good about.
Well, thank you very much, Doug. You've been fantastic, and we're hoping the best for you. Again, we want to get to that 3 million attendance.
Okay, LeRoy, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. This was LBTV. Great interview with Doug Melvin.